gentlemen, good evening once again, and welcome to another episode of When Ebenezer Talks. We are so grateful that you have joined us, and tonight I have my sister, my friend, Reverend Dr. Lisa Johnson, the pastor of the Tabernacle Baptist Church, Horntown. Lisa, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For coming. I only have one problem tonight, everybody. I've got to tell you this. In my sanctuary, she has brought in here, and Dominic doesn't have a camera to put on it, I don't think, a blue bag with a star on it. Dominic, if you find a camera, put the camera on the blue bag with the star.
It's not the Star of David.
It is not the Star of David. And but anyway, I love her just the same. We are so grateful to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Tell us about your journey. How did you get into ministry, preaching the gospel, pastoring? I remember when you were called to Tabernacle Baptist Church.
That is actually a long story so far as how I got into ministry, because I've been in church all my life, right? My mom and dad was United Methodist. He eventually came over to the Baptist denomination. They made sure that I was in church. My oldest sister, Evelyn, did as well. So as the years progressed, I started in the church in mostly administrative roles, right? Always could talk a little bit. So I do the welcome, that sort of thing. But they mostly look for me to do like the trustee kind of work, that sort of thing. And I would say probably in my mid to late 30s, the pastor at the time started to trust me more and more with spiritual things. He licensed me. He ordained me. I'm very thankful for Pastor Thomas Dickerson. He saw things in me that I wasn't ready to see yet, so far as making that shift to, from administrative roles to the spiritual side. I never saw myself as a preacher, most certainly never saw myself as a pastor. I'm walking in these areas, and I had peace about it. I couldn't walk in them if God wasn't holding my hand.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
How long have you been pastor in Tabernacle?
I have been pastor at Tabernacle for over 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Wow.
assistant
I
pastor.
think you just celebrate your anniversary.
August.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you pastored your church, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a grandmother, and you worked at NASA. Tell us about that.
Definitely bivocational.
Okay.
Some would say try. I've had other, community type things I've done along the way. But, one of the things I can say about mom and dad too, Pastor, is that they modeled giving back to the community. Okay. So yes, had a 30-year career at NASA. Actually worked at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore for almost a decade as well. There, I did administrative, professional type work that included human resources, equal opportunity, and most recently, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm thankful for all that, right? So I have, as I said, been working in the church and working outside the church for decades. And what the NASA work did, it gave me the networking skills. It gave me more people skills than the degrees have and things like that. I've had a lot of opportunities in the career, and I retired May 31st, and I'm loving it. Thank you. I am loving it. Yes.
So what was your ultimate goal in retirement? What is the dream that Lisa wants to do? Because we're going to get to the book in a minute. Yeah, we're going to get to the book.
Retirement for me, first thing I would say about that, Pastor, is it was simply time. Right? I think it's very important to discern the seasons. Even though, you might have experience or expertise in a thing, there comes a time, in my view, where it's time to move over so that the next person can step in. I think I was still bringing value, but it was just time for me to have a little more freedom. So to answer that question, my goal was just that, right? I'm pretty free-spirited, some would say independent, and I was certainly growing weary of having to do an 8 to 5, some would say 9 to 5. My hours were 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I want to be here. I want to support this activity, that sort of thing. And that's what I have now. I have the freedom to volunteer, in nonpartisan ways, right? And things like that. So that's what I was after. I think that learned, and based on who I am at my core, learned particularly from my father, I just don't sit still, right? I will always be moving and shaking, so to speak. I'll always, I think as far as I can see, be working for the Lord. And that's what retirement has done for me, is given me a lot more freedom, a lot more flexibility.
School board member, District
3.
District 3.
District 3.
Is this your second term?
It is.
And you're having a pleasurable ride, we'll say.
I wouldn't say that. It's this first year of the second term is very different than the first 4 years. The first 4 years were more of a learning curve. I have the gift of gab, and I don't hesitate, in other words, to ask questions and to contribute to discussions.
Okay.
But there was so much I didn't know. Whereas with a new set of board members, as of January of this year, the dynamics are different. People are different. It's a whole new culture.
That's true.
And I'm contributing to it. I can certainly say that, in that I know more. I ask more questions. I bring things up. I'm the type of person, and this is how I show up on the school board, I don't shy away from difficult conversations. If there's a hard topic, if there's something that needs to be said, if there's a question that needs to be asked, whether I think I know the answer or not, I'm likely the person to do that. I stand for what's right, and when it comes to the school board, it's really supposed to be about the children.
That's true.
In our training, I can say this openly, from the Virginia School Board Association, one of the things that's impressed upon us, because they can't tell us what to do, is that if we find that we're spending most of our time on adult issues, we probably need to dial back and make a shift, because it's all about the children.
That's interesting. I'm going to leave that conversation alone, but that's very intriguing.
You can or not.
That's very intriguing, the words that you use to describe the school board as being one that should be mainly focused as best it can on the children.
On the children.
And sometimes I wonder if we get sidetracked by things that persons bring in because of their lack of understanding and their lack of control.
May I?
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
if you're ready to move on
Yes,
to
ma'am.
another topic, but there's one or two more things that I can say along those lines. I would offer, you didn't ask, that one of the things from my lens about this current school board is that a school board is supposed to be nonpartisan. If it's me bringing my politics in, right, my way of looking at how a school board is supposed to function, I'm not supposed to do that, right? And so if I'm wrong, or if I have an area for improvement in that area, then it is. So that's one of the things I just want to say, is that the school board is not about politics. It's not about Democrat. It's not about Republican. I've already said it's about the children, but we don't bring our politics there. I ran as an independent candidate. I ran on the first term as an independent candidate. Didn't, declare that I was a member of any party. And if I recall, every person who was on the school board did as well. And that's how a board is supposed to function. The other thing that I would say about this board is I have a degree. My first degree is in the art of communicating. And one of the things I certainly took away, and I don't walk in it perfectly, but I do promote, is the idea of agreeing to disagree. Just because you and I have a different NFL team, we're still good. We're
still good.
Right? And we talk
That's right.
trash
That's
and the
right,
whole
we do.
nine. But at the end of the day, you preach and I preach, and we might come serve each other's congregations or whatever, but we don't fall out over that. Right? And we don't hold grudges and things of that nature. So
I
I'm
don't
speaking.
know, me and Tim might hold some grudges.
Well, y'all are real diehard, yeah. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I'm
know,
saying.
I know exactly.
That. So I will admit that this school board experience is not bringing me a lot of joy. It's actually bringing a lot of headache. It pains me not so far as what I go through, because I have difficulty. Life be lifing, but I don't think we, myself included, are keeping the main things.
And the main thing has to be, before we move on, the main thing should always be about the children. And I think sometimes we get sidetracked into a political conversation as to who has this, who should be where, and sometimes persons that have not worked with children, don't have experience in understanding the day-to-day operations of such an organization should kind of step back and
100%.
bring it down a notch
100%.
and let those who understand how this thing works work it that way and hone their skills in something else.
Yeah. I recall that your mother was a teacher.
Exactly.
May she continue to rest in peace, right? Points very well taken. I could not have said it any better myself. Yeah. There's one word that you made reference to earlier. Don't even know if you really realize that you said it, but you mentioned the word control, right? We are a 9-member board, right? And it's not all challenging for me, just so far as how my experience is going this term. But when you have any number of people and there appears to be a tug of war around who's in control, that's just not good, whatever the organizational purposes are. And so I'm just, very openly, offering that we've got some control issues. Yeah. And, none of us are really in control. I was reminded of that as you were sharing, because there are people throughout, the system who are charged to do a particular thing that we on the board and certainly outside citizens, it's not our job to do. It's the other person.
That's right. Mother, grandmother, wife, pastor, daughter, so many hats. Delta Sigma Theta.
Yes.
Author.
Yes.
Tell us about how God, and I can say God because I know you're one of my closest friends, you and your husband. And so I can say that in my mind, I truly believe God directed you to write this book. So tell us, if you can, how did you wake up and say, oh, God is laying on my heart to write a book? Tell us about that.
I would love to. So, wow, what a great way to introduce this question. And I don't see you with a notebook or anything, but it is as if you knew that my different roles and responsibilities are how I got to this particular book. As a wife, a daughter, as the mother of 2, there were seasons in my life where my focus, really had to be particularly on the children. And I feel so grateful to be in that empty nest is what they call it season, where our children are adults. They're married, they have children, and it brings me to a season where I could do more of what God has called and created me to do differently without, the demands that I've had when I was a mother of young children, if I'm making sense. So the career, the work at NASA, as well as the work in the Office of Career Services at UMES, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and then just the sheer fact that, I have to say it this way, Pastor, mid-career, toward late career, I started taking risks, moving out of my comfort zone in terms of my own need to get out of what I was comfortable with, right? To go on the job interviews and not get selected, to get selected and go into other jobs. So the book is about the season that I'm in, what I believe God needs in the earth realm right now. I don't think that God, third, has had me have the career journey that I have had, and not let me pour into other people as a result. The final thing I think that I would say about that question is the book, The Christian's Career Guide, an informative and meditative journal. It's not just a career guide, more than the title, states. It's a Christian's career guide. There are scriptures throughout the book. God gave me the scriptures, a main focus, 1 or 2 scriptures, one at a minimum for every one of the 9 chapters, a prayer, right? We turned it into a journal. It was originally just going to be a book, I'll admit that. But there's no way, in my opinion, that we can go through the career journey, that set of jobs that we have over a lifetime, and not let God pilot, right?
Of course.
His word is true. His word is rich. And there's so much in his word that will, help us to make those uncomfortable moves, right? Out of a job that all may be going well and that you're comfortable in. I think that God has a next for so many people who choose to just stay where they are.
One of the things I'm teaching in my Bible study right now is dealing with learning how to read the Bible on a daily basis, and not just read to check it off your list and say you read it, but to read it and to gain knowledge every time you read it.
Yeah.
And what I'm impressing upon my members in my congregation is the Bible between Genesis and Revelations has something to help you deal with everything you're facing.
Everyday life.
And so to see this kind of peace, to see this kind of book come into the atmosphere, into our world, it brings joy. It should bring joy to all of us as Christians, because now we have a guide to go by when we're considering changing jobs, when we're considering trying to get a promotion, wherever that promotion may be.
That's right.
And so that's brilliant that you would even think of something on that magnitude to write about. How has your marketing been? Have you had a good time, successful, positive time in being able to market your book?
I want to be able to answer that. Will you allow me to go back
Sure.
to something that you said? The marketing as well. The marketing, I have some hurdles to cross, right? There's some markets that I want to get into where, based on God's prompting, I know to pursue, but I'm just like, oh, I'm good, because people are good to me. Use of social media, word of mouth, other practitioners in the field are helping me to get the word out there. So things are going well, I would say, and there's some rivers for me to cross, right? The piece I want to go back to that I think ties back to that question. My book, what God showed me is that it's not just about the contents, but it's about open doors to speak into people, about that in-person interaction so that God can have his way, right, in real time and say whatever needs to be said to that group of people, right? Help me clarify that if I need to. So what I want to say is I can't say that I was brilliant. God prompted me during last calendar year to pick up the material that I actually have had tucked away for at least 15 years.
Okay.
I started this book many years ago, based on, I think, God's prompting, and I would pick it up and put it down. Pick it up and put it down. I'm not going to publish that. Nobody's going to read it. But last year, well before I knew that retirement was going to manifest, and his timing is just amazing.
Amazing.
It's just amazing. If anybody had told me this time, what is this, October, last year, well, I didn't know, I'll say early part of last year, first 3 months of 2023, that I would be retired, a published author, right? Continuing to walk in the doors that God opens, I would have said, nah, I don't think so, right?
Yeah.
But he prompted me to reach out to a couple in ministry, right, who publish, who are authors as well. And I had no choice. I felt like I had no choice. And so I think God knew the plans, Jeremiah 29:11, that he had for me at this particular time. And I just wanted, I thank you for the compliment, right? Because, I'm the instrument, right? But I promise you, he's writing the story.
And I use the word brilliant because you don't see a lot of books in the Christian category written on that level from an African American.
Yeah.
It's my show, so I can say that. You don't see it from a black person.
Yeah.
You see a lot of guides, manuals out there, but you don't see a lot of them from us.
Right.
And so my prayer has been, with the multiplicity of authors, clerical authors, if you will, from the Eastern Shore, that some door would open so that we could go further than Cape Charles to Salisbury.
Right.
because some of this work that some of the authors have prepared is noteworthy, and it needs to be on a national stage. And your book needs to be there. And so you wrote the book, you got the book published, you were able to now market the book. What's next?
Because
we're not even talking about bowling and photography. We'll say that for the next interview.
No.
What's next for Lisa?
So I can share some about what's next if I can hopscotch back to offering that I was published before this, right? There's a book on ethics edited by 2 professors at Regent University. One was on my doctoral research committee. And long story short, through exposure, she reached out and said, hey, we're writing this book on ethics from a Christian lens, right? I have a chapter in a book on Esther, right? It was a joy to write, and I'll say this to God's glory. My chapter came back with no need for edits. Okay, so I think, you asked me what's next. I haven't lost the thought, right? I think that God was positioning me for the book that I wrote when he allowed me to be part of that compilation. And in terms of what's next, I'm working on my second book.
Okay, very good.
And I'll stop there, right? I'll stop there, but
there.
I've been working on it almost immediately since this one was published.
Well, I'm glad you have that kind of time, because I want to work on my second book, and right now all I have is title and a few notes. So I am so proud of you that you have that kind of time. My last question to you is the same question that I asked Reverend Renee Finney.
Okay.
What would you say to the young African-American lady, I don't want to say girl, under 18, that comes into a building and sees you, Reverend Dr. Lisa Johnson, Ph.D., and she walks up to you and says to you, I want to be like you. What do you say to her?
A number of things.
Okay.
I would tell her first and foremost that she's got to work on her relationship with God so that she knows that she is fearfully and wonderfully made.
Okay.
Right? There's a lot that I could say about that, but honestly, that's the first thing I would tell her. The next thing that I would tell her is she's got to be intentional about who mentors her.
Okay.
Sometimes we only let people be our big sister, our spiritual mom, based on, again, our comfort level. I've had mentors, people to coach me who didn't look like me, as well as people who do, women who do, right? And so that's the second thing, because I'm a child of God, and I am a product of women pouring into me. That entails, and this is maybe a third piece, being willing to listen when somebody tells you don't talk like that, don't act like that. And I think I would tell her, this may be my final answer, that fear of success is real. I will admit that one of the reasons why I would pick the book up and put it down is I was, as I said before, I was like, nah, I'm good, right? Because like, what if, I do get on a national platform? Will people still want to be my friend, right? I want genuine friends. I don't want people to be, in my face just because I'm on a national platform, that sort of thing. And I'll stop there, things like that to hold me back. And so I would sum that up by saying I would tell her to be all that you can be. Don't get in your own way, right?
don't get in your own way.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to thank you this evening for taking time to come be on when Ebenezer Talks. We're going to have you back again because we always have something to talk about. Maybe the next time we'll bring Tim.
Oh, yeah, we would have something to talk about.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you tonight. This has been another episode of When Ebenezer Talks. We pray God continues to bless you and be on the lookout for our next episode. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.